Welcome to the Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. I'm Kevin Fleece, CMO of GBTA, and it's my pleasure to be moderating today's discussion. I'm joined today by Aurelie Krau, travel tech geek, innovation consultant, and public speaker, along with Yannis Karmis, SVP of Product Strategy and Development at BCD Travel. Welcome to you both, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Kevin. It's a pleasure joining you. Looking forward to the discussion.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We have a very global panel today. Aurelie is joining us from Dubai. Yannis is in Dallas. I'm in Washington, D.C. So let's jump right into it. AI burst on the scene in January 2023 with the launch of ChatGPT, and it really is transforming our lives in countless ways, both personally and professionally. Whether we know it already or not, it really is. So last year, at the GBTA APAC conference in Singapore and at the GBTA Europe conference in Hamburg, we ran big idea sessions focused on AI. These sessions were super interesting as every audience member was able to participate through roundtables, and then we summarized the findings on stage. These sessions addressed what AI means for our industry and the opportunities for business travel in terms of enhanced service. It looked at who has the most to gain and what the impact of AI will be on the travel program, the travel manager, and the traveler experience. So let's start by looking at how business travel organizations currently use AI. So Aurelie, can you outline some of the main uses of AI that are currently in place within business travel organizations?
Absolutely. I have to say it's been quite interesting to listen to all the buyers and the business travel community explaining what's currently in place within their organizations. I think I'm going to start by stating the obvious, Kevin, is every time we tend to think AI in our industry, probably the first thing that comes to mind is going to be a chatbot, I would say. So that's nothing new. Because it's been around for years now. What is new, however, is generative AI and this conversational aspect of AI that now is becoming mainstream. So I would say the first use is around this, everything related to conversational interactions. And what does it mean concretely? We're talking about customer support. We're talking about post-trip feedback. We're talking about assistance to travelers. So that's probably number one. And I have 7 for you. So I'm going to try to make it quite brief. Otherwise, Yannis is never going to be able to talk. The second one, which is directly related to generative AI, is content creation and communication. Probably marketing departments or even some travel managers who listen to us might have a little play with ChatGPT to help them probably write some emails, meeting notes. You might have some tools that automatically send you transcripts of the conversation. And then you can even ask ChatGPT or any other tool to categorize the information, analyze the information. Communication operations, we're talking about optimizing the overall communication processes and just creating content in general. Then we're going into like number 3, a little bit similar but different at the same time. It's language translation, automatic translation, and which leads us to a little bit of personalized experience that can be provided to travelers. We're talking about tailoring the messages, the content for them. We're talking about making services more accessible for them thanks to automated translations. And then we move on to the more, I would say, tech aspects of it. Number 4 would be automation and operational efficiency. We're talking here about intelligence that we apply to sometimes daily life processes. It can be knowledge bank updates. It can be data collection, expense management, recommendations in terms of budget, along those lines. Then data analysis, intelligence, nothing new, but we can dig in a little bit later on what it means now with this new tech. Everything related to predictive analytics, reviews, data set reviews, data classification, comparison. And then we move on to the financial, number 6, financial operations, compliance, using AI to actually drive a better usage of the program. And the last one is probably the most geeky one, but that's why I like it. It's everything related to software development. Now AI can write lines of codes, which makes it super interesting because pretty much everyone can become a developer with those tools. And this leads to industry transformation because we have a faster pace for innovation. And it also means we can probably do some things by ourselves now.
That's an awesome rundown. Thank you, Aurelie, for setting the stage for us. Yannis, you want to pick up on that and talk a little bit about how maybe some of these use cases or findings differ across regions?
Yeah, I'll pick up maybe a little bit on kind of where Aurelie left off and just how generative AI driving transformation, and maybe from a travel industry perspective, put some of this in context. I think there's some repetitive patterns that we're seeing, long-term repetitive patterns that we're seeing, and I think that'll play a little bit into, Kevin, your question on regions as well. You know, I started in this industry in what I really felt was like the tail end of the first big disruptive technology wave, which was mainframes. Like if you go back to the 70s and how business travel was done, it was all almost entirely manual on phones, calling airlines, right? And then the GDSs came online, and you had these mainframe technologies, and you had this kind of burst of innovation that happened. It drove increased in productivity, it drove increased accuracy, and it just kind of sparked this kind of digital innovation wave in travel generally, business travel, leisure travel. And I really think the travel industry was one of the industries that was at the forefront of deploying technology to get work done. It was really exciting. You kind of fast forward maybe 20 years or so, maybe 30 years, and the second big wave was web technology, right? Totally transformed how travel was done, right? The leisure moved to OTA models, right? All of a sudden, the Expedias and the Travelocities were transforming how leisure travel was done. That was disruptive in a lot of ways. Leisure travel was managed. And on the corporate travel side, you had the Concurs and the Get Theirs and all these online booking tools that came in place and transformed how business travel was being booked and being serviced. And you had this next big wave of recalibration of how work was being done, and both the mainframe and the web technology moved at different paces in different regions for lots of various reasons. I think the third big wave of kind of disruptive technology was mobile, right? 10, 15 years ago, all of a sudden everybody's walking around with a smartphone. And now it was easier to contact a travel agent if you needed help with a rebooking, if you have a flight disruption sitting in an airport in Dallas. You're able to now deploy mobile apps, right? And so you are perpetually connected now to the resources that you need to be able to support your travel program. And again, very exciting. And that drove a lot of kind of transformative technology. I think we're now in the very beginning stage of the fourth big wave, which is artificial intelligence. And Aurelie talked about 7, 8 different ways that this technology is going to transform everything from productivity to traveler engagement to how we do software development and how we write marketing copy, right? And it's going to impact everybody's jobs. Like we're all going to have to live with AI. It's really exciting. Now, there are regional differences, right? And some of those regional differences, we experience it with mainframes, we experience it with web, we experience it with mobile. We're going to see it with artificial intelligence as well, right? We've got in some markets different regulatory frameworks and data privacy rules that we have to navigate, right? Think about China as just a significantly different model for almost everything we do in corporate travel, right? I don't think that's going to be very different when it comes to artificial intelligence. In some ways, it's going to be at the forefront of innovation. In some ways, it's going to be a little difficult to implement things on a global basis. a lot of the large language models that we use for this generative AI kind of think in English, but can translate. But, similar to when I go to Spain or Latin America, I speak a little bit of Spanish, but I have to kind of think about everything in English, and then I kind of go through my lexicon and find the Spanish words for it. Those things matter a little bit on the margin, I would say. I think the biggest things that are really impacting the regionalization and kind of timing is really two factors. One is just the potential, right? I think you look at North America and Europe, they're much larger travel markets, therefore they get much more focus from companies are trying to find ways in deploying the technology. Let's say versus a Latin America, right? It's just not that Latin America is not important, but when you're making these investments, you need to make sure that they're working well in the US and in Europe. So that tends to take a little bit more of our focus and testing and prioritization. I think the second thing is, for a lot of artificial intelligence, a lot of use cases that we want to deploy, it's not just AI running in a vacuum, it's AI running in a way that it interfaces with other systems. Aurelie talked about knowledge bases. We've got telephony systems. We've got booking APIs and reservation databases. And so your pace of innovation is not just dependent on how well the underlying AI works. It's your ability to also then connect it to these other systems to make more complicated processes. Again, many of the things that Aurelie talked about really, really kind of come to market. And unfortunately, travel's global in many ways, but local in far too many ways. And so, there are a lot of local solutions that you have to make sure are kind of wired up properly.
Excellent. Yeah, what I found fascinating was I think we did like a show of hands in Singapore, and then we did a show of hands in Hamburg in terms of how many of you are using AI in your daily work. And I seem to recall that in Singapore, about 3/4 of the hands went up, which kind of shows that maybe different parts of the world are on that early adopter curve more so than others. So excellent insights and a great foundation to kind of dive maybe one level deeper and maybe pull out some of those examples as we move into the next part of the podcast, some of those use cases we heard. So let me go back to you, Aurelie. It's been reported that by 2025, almost half of service organizations will be using generative AI to improve operational efficiency. And you talked about a number of examples in your opening remarks. But in those big idea sessions in Singapore and Hamburg, we identified several real use cases, or I won't say we identified, the audience shared with us some of the things that they did the job. The buyers in the audience shared with us some of the things they're already working on, as well as the suppliers. So can maybe share a few of your favorite examples of how AI is currently being used in our industry. And Aurelie, I'll start with you.
Okay. So I think I would like to break it down, I would say, into two categories. The first one, and this is quite close to my heart, it's everything related to traveler centricity. Again, this used to be a little bit of a buzzword a few years back. Let's be honest. But I really truly believe that now with these new capabilities that AI is unleashing, we're getting seriously closer to a proper traveler centricity. So a few concrete examples, and this is what I loved hearing from our tables. For example, you have rate comparison. Super clearly, I know I can identify thanks to data classification that I've mentioned earlier, an identical hotel room and bed type. Where's the best place to buy it? With predictive models, some technologies will tell you, don't buy now, wait, because the price is going to drop in 7 days. So that's quite powerful. First of all, in terms of my traveler experience, because I want to do the right thing, but also a little bit of an intelligent layer in terms of personalization with systems that know me, but like really truly know me. As in, yes, my OBT, or even think about, maybe you might not need OBTs in the near future because you will have this AI layer behind the scenes that's gonna guide you on, this is your policy, this is your company policy, and we already have that. And on the top of that, we have the early stages of, yes, I'm just inventing, I'm going to New York, and in my company's program, I have a few preferred hotel chains. But it turns out that as a traveler, I actually have 2 loyalty programs. So maybe these are the ones that are, the most relevant for me as a traveler. And today we do have that layer of intelligence, and that's that we just need to execute it. But these were some of the talking points. Safety, security, very important one as well. And I heard that from a buyer who was explaining to us that now they can really tailor the information that's health, security related to the traveler, so that they only push what's relevant to them, so that they don't overwhelm them. 24/7 traveler FAQ. Travel managers are probably going to be very happy about that one, because I'm pretty sure they get lots of times the same questions being asked. So these are some concrete examples. Now, more on the, I would say, on the strategic one, on the what's happening behind the scenes, it's really about driving operational efficiencies. Yannis, I'm stealing that one from you, but I think you're probably better positioned to elaborate on that. But we talked about email classification. Think about customer service, travelers reaching out to their TMC to ask so many different things. It can be simple things like requesting an invoice. It can be changing a booking. It can be canceling a booking. It can be an emergency. No matter where the demand originates from, whether it's from a mobile, whether it's from an email. But now we do have that technology that can easily classify those requests and then redirect automatically to the right channel so that it can be addressed. Buyers always have SLAs with their suppliers, so this is a great way to work on those SLAs to provide great service for travelers. And any technology like expense management, again, we've been talking about that for a few years already, with technology that can do automated data reconciliation, that can automatically, with OCR tech, that can read receipts, pre-fill reports. But behind the scenes, now it goes much further than that with analytics capabilities, being able to identify patterns, make recommendations in terms of budget lines. So these are the types of concrete business travel use cases that are currently live and that we've heard from the buyers.
Excellent. Yannis, what did you pick up? Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just touch on a few of those points. I mean, I think on the BCD side, we started down our AI journey a couple of years ago, prior to really Gen AI coming to the mainstream, and that meant that we kept our AI focus a little bit more at the back end, right? It was dealing with data, like as Aurelie kind of talked about. So we've had AI in place now for 2 or 3 years that's doing that rate comparison across different hotel options, looking to make sure that when you compare 2 things, maybe there's a $15 price difference, but are we comparing same room, same bed to same room, same bed, right? So we've had that in place now for 2 or 3 years. One of the ways we did it, though, because we recognized the technology, the AI was imperfect, is if you looked at one of our agent displays, there's an ability for the agent to then intervene with the AI and help train the bot. So they can kind of look at the detail and say, actually, the AI got it wrong. And, AI is good, it is imperfect. And so the ability for an agent to kind of override and train the bot a little bit to be more intelligent for us is actually proving to really increase the accuracy better than a developer can do, because I've got 8,000 agents who are using this technology day to day, who are adding their human intelligence to improve the artificial intelligence. So that kind of combination for us has been really, really interesting to kind of watch as that develops. We're now using AI also at the back end for some of that credit card reconciliation, right? The fuzzy matching between TMC transactions and credit card transactions, and trying to move away from this binary, does it match or not, but come to more of a probability model it's great when the probability is 100% because everything matches. The traveler name and the dates and the dollars all match perfectly. But there's lots of cases where something maybe is off by a day or something's off by a few dollars because of foreign exchange rates. And so is it a 100% match? No, but the AI can help really determine how much kind of manual focus we need to spend on that transaction, right? If we say it's a 95% match and it's because the date is off by, 1 day, that's probably not one to put a lot of management time on. So we've had that in place now for those kind of things in place for a couple of years. Very happy with how they're evolving. Now comes, the exciting stuff really where we can start to engage the traveler, right? We can start to think about that email automation and categorization. We can start to think about the chat bots. We can start to think about ways that is more that conversational AI back and forth with the traveler. And so I think there's a couple of things there. We've got initiatives that are going on around email automation in particular. If you do the math on the number of email calls and the number of the amount of minutes that we spend on email, it is by far kind of our biggest investment in customer service. And often it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 emails back and forth. Right. So there's a huge opportunity for us to deploy AI there. And we see actually in our testing really, really good results. I'll go back to what I said earlier, though, right? The art here is also how we make it interface with our underlying system. So our telephony system has tens of thousands of different mailboxes and routing solutions based on many, many different clients and different escalation paths and different workflows. And so it's not just how good is the AI, but then how do we kind of connect that AI logic really into these complex telephony and routing systems? Where does the AI stop? And where does the human interaction pick back up? And so, I think we're kind of in that hybrid mode now where the AI is actually in pretty good shape. Now it's how do we kind of integrate it into all the rest of the plumbing to really make it, deployable in almost a 360 view. So Aurelie touched on, on SLAs, right? Well, I can put AI in place and say, hey, we're going to respond to every email within a few seconds with some, credible information. But that doesn't mean we're going to have a satisfied traveler at the other end of it, or we've actually resolved their question, that their booking or their service issue, whatever it is. So all of a sudden, these, very basic SLAs, emails answered within X number of minutes or whatever it might be, those are somewhat irrelevant now because it doesn't really matter how quickly I respond back. It matters how well that service experience goes. So then it's also this kind of, evolution that says, not just how well does the AI work and how well it's integrated, but how well do we integrate it into our management processes with our customers, right? How do we redefine that SLA? Does it become more of an NPS score? Does it matter how quickly or accurately that I responded? Is the best way to assess that just saying, what was the NPS of this engagement? And if it's a high NPS, we did a great job. And if it's a low one, we need to follow up and figure out where the engagement went amiss. But maybe some different metrics there as well. And the last thing I'll just say is, we need logs. Like we need information that help us understand how did the AI come up with what it came up with, right? Again, it's going to be imperfect, and we need those kind of controls that say, well, wait a minute, the AI suggested this, or maybe auto responded with something. We need abilities to kind of really understand how it's working. It can't be a black box, and I can't go back to our customers and say, well, I don't know what it did. It just did it, right? It's the sentient being that came up with an answer, and there's no rhyme or reason that we can't explain. So that kind of, those controls are really important for us, particularly in managed corporate travel.
Great. And we'll touch on some of that, I think, as we kind of get towards the closing around obstacles. And I think, Yannis, you're talking about getting weird responses. Sometimes they call them hallucinations, strange answers, the ghost in the machine. That might be one of the obstacles we want to talk about. So let's pivot, I guess, for the kind of this sort of penultimate section and talk about the travel manager, the travel buyer. And I guess I'll maybe reorder the questions here a little bit to talk about how can AI transform travel programs? We've talked a little bit about that already, and maybe what are some of the specific benefits? And then we'll come back to organizations are at different stages. How do you get started with AI? But let's talk about as a travel manager, there was a lot of discussion about how AI can transform travel programs. What can travel managers do, Aurelie? And then what are some of the benefits around adopting AI within your travel program? Let's tackle that, Aurelie.
Yeah, so I would say the first piece of advice that I would give to anyone who's wondering where to start is to start even small with the little things in your daily life where you identify that there are pain points that you can automate. Because there's, I would say, the immediate applications of AI, and I'm going to expand in a second. And then there's, I would say, the bigger picture a little bit more down the road, because it requires probably a little bit more work and more people involved and working with the different stakeholders. So what we heard from companies who already have, to some extent, an AI-empowered travel program, the first interesting aspect is the potential that we can find in everything related to sourcing and contracting. They talk a lot about how can I dynamically source suppliers. There's a lot of conversations around mostly as well the hotel category. Some buyers stopped systematically doing RFPs, this was, I would say, the first thing that started to change a little bit the procurement processes and how we source suppliers and content. So we have data already. TMC is able to provide a report, of course, of the different bookings, but then think about as well, and this is related to the benefits of using AI for a travel program. It's all related to inventory management as well. How can you optimize your inventory when it comes to managing supplies to improve the control, resources utilization, meaning how do I get to giving the right offer at the right time to the right traveler? Think about that as in very simple words in your daily life as a travel manager. It's like, I currently have a value proposition. That's my program, my travel program. But how can I take it to the next level with the tools that I currently have? I'm able to personalize a bit more the experience because I know more detailed information about my travelers. I can have behavioral data. I can have more background data, so I can ensure that I'm going to tick the box when it comes to duty of care. I've mentioned a little bit earlier the security, safety alerts, and the compliance, obviously driving more compliance, adherence with AI-driven monitoring and reporting, trying to identify the behaviors. So this is probably what's a little bit less tangible right now for travel managers, because sometimes when you listen, if I try to put myself in their shoes, like, okay, that's a beautiful white paper, but how can I do it? How can I execute, on that? So one of the questions as well, and I'm going a little bit more down the line here when we're talking about the benefits of AI, is what's going to be the entry point if I want to book a trip in the future? Is it going to be conversational? Am I going to still need a tool? How can I use the benefit of data analytics and automating processes and messages and conversational interfaces to maybe offer different ways to my travelers to book their trips? What layer, maybe can I get rid of to maybe get rid of some complexity? So that's one of those questions that ultimately, were discussed. Data security is kind of an important one as well, especially, I think we hear a lot of things about frauds, problem of, data encryption. This can also be a way to future-proof and like a secure-proof travel programs using that layer of intelligent analytics to like automatically detect such anomalies in the program, protect user accounts and personal data, which is quite topical based on regulations that we see mostly in Europe as well right now with data suppliers and travel suppliers and usage of data. This is another I would say area to explore for travel managers. And simple things, automation. What is currently requiring a lot of manual effort? What is labor intensive? What can I automate? Do I spend lots of time on Excel sheets, reworking data that I'm getting from many different sources? Is there a better way? I can use that tech as well to give me recommendations, to analyze, save me time. And Yannis touched that, the cost saving aspect. If I'm able to compare really clearly offers super easily, this is a great opportunity here to save quite some money.
So, I mean, it's clearly what's amazing to me is it's really, I guess, a target-rich environment. It's pick an area and go for it, whether it's
Yes.
customer support, content creation, translation, operational efficiency, data management, financial operations. There's really no area within travel management that could not benefit from AI in some form or fashion. So, Yannis, I mean, how do you think about this? You know, you've got a corporate team that's about to embark on their AI journey. Where should they begin?
I mean, I think, for us, I would say we distill a lot of those, kind of benefits that Aurelie talked about into, what are we doing to drive efficiency, right, for our clients? So how do we make their travel programs more efficient through automation, and how AI can focus on that? I would say the second one is effectiveness, improved accuracy, improved data, data modeling. And the third one for us is engagement, right? Engaging travelers, engaging agents, engaging travel arrangers. I think within each of those categories, there's multiple different ways to get started. Each client has their own challenges and their own idiosyncrasies. So, do they want to focus on efficiency? Do they want to focus on effectiveness and engagement? The technology is deployed a little bit more maturely in some of those areas. I think efficiency technology, kind of efficiency use of AI is probably evolving a little bit more quickly than engagement use of AI. But I would encourage travel managers to kind of think about those three kind of categories and say, okay, well, what do they want to get out of their travel program? And I would do it over a couple of years. I don't think this is like, what do you want in your travel program in May? And somehow it's going to be transformative. I would say, what do you want to accomplish in 2024? What do you want to accomplish in 2025? What are the big levers that are going to transform or have impact in your travel program? And then start talking with your TMC, talk with technology providers and startups and some of the big AI providers out there, and start to understand how those play in. And I think it's also not lost on us that we're talking about travel managers. Travel managers work in a corporate ecosystem where most companies have their own internal AI initiatives, right? And they're not feeling just pressure from the travel industry community and their peers here. They're feeling pressure from their CFO, who's saying, what are you doing on AI? And hey, here's what we're doing on our own products on AI. Here's what our HR department's doing on AI. So, it's really important that they kind of contextualize it in, okay, well, my enterprise is evolving at a certain pace. My employees, who are my travelers, but my employees, my peers, are expecting these kind of AI solutions. They expect it from HR systems. They expect it from their expense management systems. They expect it from their travel systems. Make sure that is all kind of calibrated so that travel hopefully is at the forefront of delivering these new services to your employee base.
Great. And you guys have both done a fantastic job sort of summarizing what the use cases are, what the potential benefits are, how to get started. What obstacles, Yannis, should we be thinking about as an industry when it comes to AI?
I mean, I think there's some of the obvious ones that we talked about a little bit earlier, right? I mean, there's kind of concerns just on accuracy and hallucinations. Just give you a really fun little example. Like we built an email bot last year that looked at 11,000 emails just as a sample set, and we had two use cases that we like to talk about. One was somebody just asking us to resend an invoice to them, and somebody else asking us to cancel their trip. Like those felt like two really kind of clear examples. And on the surface, we were pretty happy with the bot's performance. I think the resend itineraries was something like 97%, with just a little bit of work. Accurate cancels was 95%. And on the surface, you're like, that seems really good out of the gate. But I don't think we could deploy that, just put it live into the market, because we're going to get some things wrong. And so those false positives or hallucinations where it thought you wanted me to send an itinerary, or it thought you wanted to cancel a trip, right? We jokingly call the first one, like if I Aurelie asked a question about her itinerary, and we just randomly sent her back an itinerary, and she's looking at her invoice, and it's like, I didn't ask for this, right? I call that our parking ticket violation. Like, she's going to be frustrated at us, but we didn't fundamentally break anything. It's just we added a lot of friction to the process. But Kevin, if we accidentally canceled your trip, I call that our felony. Like, now there's going to be some real financial consequences to that decision, right? And so, the accuracy and hallucinations, we have to make sure that it's not just how does the AI improve, but what are those processes that we put around it, right? Does it do all these interactions need to go to an agent, or before I take certain steps, I need to validate things 2 or 3 times using other a human interaction, whether it's an agent or the traveler themselves. So that kind of accuracy is really important. Obviously, the privacy question, right? Or we have I'll tell you that we have some corporations who've kind of told us, like, hey, before we deploy anything on AI, like, that has to be a very clear discussion with their privacy and security teams, because they have their own stipulations on it. We've got to think about traveler privacy and data in those models. We've got to think about the regulatory framework, IP rights, and other things. So there's a lot of just I'll call it kind of infrastructure overhead things that as an industry, as BCD as a company, we need to make sure that we're thinking about. One of the things that we're putting in place is essentially I'll call it like an AI lab or sandbox, because we have so many ideas and use cases. So we're kind of setting up a common place within BCD that developers and others can kind of take their data sets and proofs of concept and explore artificial intelligence. But that sandbox comes with policy. Like, you can't just do anything. Here's kind of our own internal policy on the use of AI. It comes with some specific texts and guardrails that we want to put in place, some specific security standards. So I can open it up to our front-end developers, or back-end developers, or data team. We can open up to citizen developers if we want, but everybody's got to play by the same rules if they want to get access to if they want access to the tools, you have to kind of go through the safety lecture, and you have to kind of abide by the safety rules that are going to be posted in the lab if you want access to the lab. So we're kind of excited about that, because we think that'll kind of spur some of our innovation thinking.
Excellent. I think I love the sandbox idea, while having some guardrails in place. And the other thing I think you noted, Yannis, in your comments is AI is kind of like your ride along partner. If I'm whatever role I'm in, AI is there to serve as an assistant, and the human providing the human intelligence to check against what AI is saying, I think is super important, because I think there are, look, the elephant in the room is AI. Is AI coming for my job? Is AI coming for our jobs? And I don't know if either of you guys want to touch on that before we go to our closing question. How do you see it? AI as a partner, AI as an enhancement to what we're doing, etc. Yannis, any thoughts?
I'll just say, I mean, I think I hear that from obviously from our agents and operations teams. I hear that from even some of our developers, and I think generally my answer is, I think AI is coming to transform your job, right? I think there's going to be a lot of things that change, but if I go back to kind of my evolution of travel, like agent jobs changed when mainframes came online and then scripts came online. But we've got thousands of agents today who are working with with that technology. From scripts, we went to robotics, ticketing robots and price monitoring robots, right? We still have many agents continuing to work and work within that kind of context. On the development side, right, there's lots of ways that we've accelerated our development through new technologies. So I think everybody should be thinking about their role as, not is AI going to replace what I do? It's how is AI going to transform the work I do? How am I going to work in an environment where AI is now another tool set? The web is a tool set, and scripts and robotics and all these different tool sets are available to our workforce across many different disciplines. This is just going to be one new one, and let's take advantage of it, because I think it's going to make us all more productive and enhance everybody's role, and it's an opportunity for everybody to learn a little.
Excellent. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today. It's been fascinating. So I have one final question, and that is, what key lesson or lessons can we take away from the big idea? What should we do to maximize the AI opportunities and embrace it as an opportunity in our businesses? And Aurelie, we'll start with you, and then I'll leave it to Yannis for closing remarks.
Yeah, so very short answer, just do it, just to paraphrase a very famous brand. So yes, it can feel a little bit daunting, but I would break it down in several steps here. First is, it doesn't have to be something super shiny and super complicated. It starts with simplifying your daily tasks, your daily job. So top tip, how to maximize AI: find effective business applications of AI that can help you in your job tomorrow. It was actually interesting because you touched on something, Kevin, a little bit earlier about did you find some differences across markets? What I found when I listened to everyone brainstorming was that I thought that depending on the sectors, there were different levels of maturity and different levels of advancements. For example, when we're talking about IT, banking industry, pharma, consulting, or service-oriented businesses, to your point, Yannis, AI is probably coming from top down. So it's going to probably be a little bit easier to drive such projects because it's within the company culture, it's in the DNA. When it's not necessarily, what I found as well, some buyers, travel managers really want to, but they face some challenges internally to try to sell the projects. Hence my recommendation, find effective business applications. It all comes down to the will, the skill, and the bill, I would say. This is how I would summarize it. Where there is the will, you already have everything it takes to try to set yourself up for success. And then the skill and the bill, this is something you can figure out, and by working really closely with your stakeholders and even travelers, and to build on that, testing is key. Start small, run pilots, start with a limited group, maybe run a focus group, build a business case. I believe still in our industry, we tend to be a little bit protective, and we don't have that test and learn mentality, and that we find in other industries where failing is normal. It's okay. The more you fail, and the closer you're going to get to something that's really going to work. And I would say, in general, travelers are pretty open to new initiatives as well. And if you do it, you would be surprised by how open and how excited people can get to even be able to test something new. It's a good way to engage travelers and engage your suppliers and work together as partners, really, and create value.
I love it. And I love mnemonics. So just do it. The will, the skill, and the bill. I'm definitely
Exactly.
borrowing that. Okay.
Okay.
Yannis,
Okay,
over.
you can
You get full credit though,
copyright.
Aurelie. You get full
Copyright.
credit, of course. Copyright Aurelie Krau 2024.
Yeah.
Okay. Yannis?
Yeah, I'll kind of start with, I think it's interesting. I think we've moved past the kind of question that often comes up of, well, is AI hype or reality? Right. I felt like, 6 months ago, all these meetings, all these podcasts kind of ended up, a poll of hands, how many people think it's hype or reality? I think, I really believe that the industry in general has now kind of really kind of settled on artificial intelligence as reality. There are really practical use cases that are here today and practical use cases that are coming. I think most travel managers are excited about the opportunity. I think most participants in the industry are excited about the opportunity of investments. There may be a little hype on how quickly and how easily those can get deployed at scale, but I agree very much with Aurelie that we need to get started. And there's lots of resources available, I think, for travel managers when you can look to your TMCs and what are they doing to support you. You can look at your OBT and expense providers. What are they doing around artificial intelligence? Obviously, there's your internal resources within your IT department and what resources are they making available for you. There's obviously leading technology companies out there, AWS and Microsoft, who are always willing to talk about what they can do to kind of support those initiatives and how they're making AI more accessible to many different constituents at corporations. And then I'll kind of end with your peers and GBTA, right? And we're fortunate we work in an industry where there is broad collaboration and there's a lot of resources available at your fingertips, and lots of knowledge, lots of peers that even if it's informal are willing to get on calls and share their experiences. There's local meetings and regional meetings and national global meetings. There's lots of places for you to get more information. And so everybody's at a different place in their learning curve. But I'd say to me, almost the most important thing you can do is leverage the resources around you, right? If you're going to go learn this from scratch by yourself and do everything on your own, that's a really hard journey, right? We've got a lot of resources that are available to you. And I would say take advantage of those because they're a force multiplier. And they're going to make you much, much more successful, and they'll add a lot more richness to your thinking around artificial intelligence.
And if I can build on that, because I think it's worth mentioning, given the fact that we were in Singapore last year, on the 26th of February, the government has announced something quite amazing to me. There is currently a subsidy from the government from people who are into mid-career. So it's for people who are 40 years old or plus. And if they want to go through like a full-time diploma in higher education in AI, because they really truly believe that AI is going to transform the way that we work. We have to accept that things are moving super fast, and they want to equip like their citizens in helping even themselves reinventing their own jobs, given everything that's happening. And I found that was worth mentioning, because even the governments now are really pushing people to educate themselves, even alongside younger generations. What we've learned in academic like journeys 20 years ago might not be fully relevant anymore. Yes, we gain experience. Yes, we learn things on the field when we're working, but sometimes we might need a little push, a little academic push. So I find that quite interesting. And just to finish as well, to give a very concrete tip for anyone who would like to start. Sometimes it also takes to be curious, to your point, Yannis, on what do you see, what do you read, follow experts, on LinkedIn, or subscribe to some newsletter, because you can be inspired by things like OpenAI, the company who's behind ChatGPT, has just launched a new solution that's called Sora. Sora is an AI that can produce videos that are undistinguishable. I'm losing my English. So it's so close that from a Hollywood production or from what a smaller studio can produce in terms of videos. So now we're not only talking about generated text, we're also talking about generating videos. So on the leisure travel side, travel agents are starting to be super excited about that because I can craft personalized itineraries for travelers. So it's all around, it's always about take a look at what's happening, what solutions are out there, how could you apply to what you're doing? Maybe you want to solve a problem, maybe you want to create something a bit innovative and make it a bit more exciting.
Yeah, jump right in and explore. And I think that's a great place to kind of put a bow on it. And I just want to say thank you so much to both Aurelie and Yannis for sharing your incredible insights today. And Yannis was talking about resources, Aurelie was talking about resources. Check out the new report available called The Big Idea, Artificial Intelligence and What It Means for Business Travel. That report is on the BCD website. It's also on the GBTA hub for any GBTA members. And with that, you've been listening to The Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. For more information about GBTA and its work, visit gbta.org and be sure to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, thank you again, Yannis. Thank you again, Aurelie. It's been a real pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you.
Until next time, thank you for listening.